and welcome to another episode of SmartTag Learn Tools for the Web. I'm your host, Chad Watkins, and today we're going to be covering part 1 in our series on Adobe Illustrator. Now, Adobe Illustrator is a program used for creating and manipulating vector graphics. Now, vector graphics are graphics that aren't pixel-based per se, but are instead based on a mathematical grid that allows you to basically scale graphics and zoom in and zoom out on whatever you draw in there, and without having any type of pixelation occur. So let's go ahead and get started and see. We can go ahead and see how to create some basic vector graphics here. So I'm using Adobe Illustrator version CC, or Creative Cloud, but many of these features are found in previous versions of Illustrator as well. So if you're using CS4, CS5, or CS6, excuse me, you're probably going to have a lot of the similar features. So to create a new file, go ahead and hit File New, or you can hit the keyboard shortcut Control N. This brings up the New Document dialog box. So let's go ahead and give this a name. We're going to go ahead and cover Illustrator Basics. So you have your different profiles here, which this gives you basically pixel-based, with monitor screens sizes here. If you want to print, you can give it in points. You can also change this manually if you want to do it in inches, or if you want to have it in millimeters. You also have video and film, which also gives you in pixels. It gives you various presets there. But we're going to go ahead and choose web, since that's where SmartTag is all about, learning tools for the web. And we're going to go ahead and just have this preset size here, 1024 by 768. You can customize it right down here. Okay, so this creates an artboard here in that exact same size. This is where we can go ahead and draw our vector graphics. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and start with rectangles. So to use the rectangle tool, you just click this little box right here, or you can go ahead and hit the M key. And to do that, you go ahead and drag out a rectangle of whatever size you want. Alright, so you can see here we have a very basic rectangle. Now you can see here it's white, and if we click away, do that, you go ahead and hit the selection tool, or V. This lets you escape the rectangle tool, or any of the shape tools or any other tools. So, and you can see here we got a white rectangle with a black stroke around the edge. Stroke is the term that is used here. And you can also see our colors that we are using right here. So we have a white fill with a black stroke. You can also change these. So let's go ahead and change. Now to do this, make sure you have the shape selected, or otherwise it will not take effect. So let's change the fill to maybe like a nice blue. So something like that. Okay. And we're still on the selection tool, so we can go ahead and click away and see what is going on. Now, something to note, if you're drawing rectangles here, let's go ahead and just draw another one here. You want to select this again, and you're still in the rectangle tool. It's just going to draw another rectangle on top of that. So make sure that you're out of the rectangle tool by going and hit V, or the selection tool up here. Alright, so we can go in here, and if we want to change the stroke, it's kind of the same idea. We can come in here, we can change the color maybe to a red stroke. Or if we don't want any stroke, we go ahead and hit this button right here, none, and that will get rid of the stroke. And this does the same thing if you have the fill highlighted as well. So you can toggle between which one is highlighted by hitting the X key. This will toggle at the fill or the stroke, which one is in the foreground, which one is active. Now let's say you want to go ahead and draw a perfect square, excuse me. To do that, you hold down the Shift key while you drag, and that creates a perfect square for you. There's one other way you can do this. You can go ahead and just click once without any dragging, and this brings up a dialog box where you can specify a specific width and a specific height. Alright, so that's some basics on the rectangle tool. So if you want to create some other shapes, go ahead and just click here, and you can go ahead and see we have all these different shapes here. We have the ellipsis, which allows us to create circles. Also holding down the shift key constrains proportions to a perfect circle. Without that, we can kind of just create maybe an oval of some sorts. Also noting that it does pull from our previous fill and stroke. So one last thing we're going to cover real quick is the polygon tool. Now the polygon tool defaults to a hexagon shape here. Okay, so you can see that. But if we don't want a hexagon with the polygon tool, if we want per se, like we want a triangle, we want to create that. To do that, generally, you just click and that brings up the dialog box. You can just specify the sides right here. So we can go ahead and hit 3. We have ourselves a nice triangle. Alright, so that is allowing you to create some basic shapes. And go ahead and start playing around with, you can come in these corners of the bounding box and modify, how they are. You can come in here, you can make them bigger, you can make them smaller, you can make various colors. So with that is some basic, just drawing some basic shapes. Next time we're going to go ahead and cover modifying these shapes more with using the direct selection tool. So stay tuned for that. And also be sure to check out our other videos on YouTube and on LearnSmartTag.com. And also be sure to check out our newly formed Flipboard magazine with additional other tools that may be helpful, other little tips and tricks that may help your workflow, and make sure to go ahead and check those out.